There's a three-way tie at the top of the Big 12, and two of those teams squaring off this weekend in Austin. Michael Swain and Chip Brown here to break down Kansas at Texas. The undefeated matchup everyone was predicting, right? Both teams 4-0 here, despite Texas being the underdog to Bama in Week 2, and Kansas, well, being Kansas. But the Jayhawks, they are 4-0 in back-to-back seasons for the first time in over 100 years. Meanwhile, the Longhorns trying to stay in front of the Texas is back headline. So, Michael, we'll start with you. As these teams try to stay at the top of the conference, how important is a win here?
It'd be huge. I think you look at the Kansas program and the trajectory it's been on since that initial win in Austin back in 2021. And a win this year would cement KU as a contender for the Big 12 title. Look, if you go on the road and you beat a Texas team that is as talented and as good as this one, you can beat anybody else in the Big 12, and this win would certainly cement KU's place as a title contender. In addition to that, I mean, the recruiting implications of a win here would be pretty massive as well. KU has done a lot of recruiting down in Texas. They're going to continue to look to make inroads down there, and the branding that would come from a big win like that would play a lot on the recruiting trail and really help KU as they continue to try and build this roster out to be able to compete for titles in the new Big 12.
Well, for Texas, look, they're trying to do what they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to win this game against Kansas. They're supposed to dominate. They're picked to win by 17. Last year, they won in Lawrence 55-14 with a massive ground and pound attack that helped keep Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal off the field. I think the strength of this Texas team right now is the defense. And we know that Kansas has an improved defense. So Texas has to get it going at home. They have played better on the road than they have at home. Believe that or not. They didn't have any pre-snap penalties against Alabama. They're one of the fewest penalized teams in the country, but the penalties have come at home. So they've got to get off to a better start. I don't know what it is. I asked Quinn Ewers, you guys just a bunch of road warriors? You're a better road team than you are at home. He said, a lot of games left. We'll see. But Texas needs to get off to a better start than they did against Rice and Wyoming.
Well, let's talk about Quinn Ewers then. He's coming off probably the most complete game of his career against Baylor. Now he's facing a Kansas defense that's a little confusing when you look at the stats. They're great at creating havoc, but still allowing the opponents to score. So, Chip, what do you expect from Ewers in this game?
Yeah, I mean, he's a perfect example of what I was just talking about. He got off to a great start against Alabama. You're seeing him there throwing it deep to Xavier Worthy. Got off to a great start against Baylor. Had his best completion percentage of his Longhorn career, 78% completion rate. Against Rice and Wyoming, it was a sluggish start. And against Wyoming, he, completed, less than 60% of his passes. And so he's got to get sharp. He and Steve Sarkisian have to get on the same page. I think they were trying to impress all the recruits who were at the Wyoming game after the win over Alabama, and they were throwing deep when Wyoming's defense wasn't allowing for that. They just need to take what the defense has given them, whether it's check downs or we saw Quinn Ewers run for a 29-yard touchdown last week, which was interesting. So maybe a little more athletic than he's been given credit for. But Quinn Ewers knows that the time is now, and I think he senses that, and we should see him get off to a better start this week.
Yeah, Chip, and you look at KU's defense, and I think you look at what they've done improving the front seven. Last season, Texas ran all over Kansas, and it really did show how far the team had to go in improving in the trenches, and they did just that. They go out in the transfer portal. They had Devin Phillips from Colorado State, Gage Keys from Minnesota, and a couple of defensive ends from the portal as well. And I think for me, a guy on defense that's really flashed is J.B. Brown. He's a transfer from Bowling Green. He's come out, made some really big plays, and as a result, the front seven's playing better. The secondary's all back from last season, and I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup because this KU defense so far has forced a ton of havoc. It's basically once every 4 plays, KU's defense is causing a tackle for loss, a forced fumble, or a pass breakup. Like, it's incredible production that they're putting out there, but they need to be more consistent. And this is the type of game where I think KU's going to need some flash plays from some of those defensive backs like Kobe Bryant, maybe even JB Brown getting in there, forcing a fumble, and they're just going to need to be more consistent because Texas, with that big offensive line, it's going to be a really big test for KU, which I think has looked a lot better physically in the trenches and in that front seven. But again, it's not going to come as a harder test than this Texas team.
A big test for Quinn Ewers as he continues his Heisman campaign. But on the other side, a quarterback with award-winning potential of his own, Jalen Daniels, he was the preseason pick to win Big 12 Player of the Year before missing the season opener. But he's been efficient since then, almost a 75% completion rate, averaging 9.4 yards per attempt. So, Michael, what's the challenge look like for him this week against a really stacked Texas defense?
Yeah, I think so much of what Jalen Daniels does is just elevate the offense with his arm talent. But I think when Jalen is at his best, KU is running the ball well too. And I think that's going to be an equal test for this KU offensive line, where I look at that Texas front seven, it's bigger, it's more physical, it's more athletic than I think KU has played. And so they're going to need a balanced attack. But with Jalen Daniels, Kansas has someone that can just negate bad plays. He can scramble with his legs, he can roll to his right, roll to his left, and still make really athletic throws down the field. And look, I think in these big games, you see KU open up the playbook a little bit more, where against Nevada, when the offense kind of struggled, well, Jalen Daniels wasn't running the ball very much. And then you look against Illinois or you look against BYU, and Daniels is running the ball a little bit more. So I think that dual threat ability is what makes him such a special quarterback and someone that entering the season had really high expectations. So he's got that all-around ability, but KU is going to need a really complete offensive performance to A, allow Daniels to play at his best and make those big plays, but B, to really control the clock and keep that Texas offense off the field as well.
Yeah, Kansas is going to be the best offense that Texas has faced. And when they went to Alabama, they faced Jalen Milroe. Nick Saban didn't have a lot of designed quarterback runs in for Jalen Milroe, and that benefited Texas because Milroe did make yards on the ground with his feet early in the game. And Texas has given up some early running plays. They gave up a 62-yard touchdown run to Wyoming early in the game, but they adjusted and they shut people down last week, limiting Baylor to 1.9 yards per carry. So Texas is going to have to compress the pocket. They know what to expect from Kansas's triple option principles from their offense. They were able to limit it last year, held Kansas off the scoreboard till late in the third quarter. By then, Texas had a 41-0 lead. Of course, they also had Bijan Robinson. So, yeah, the Texas defense and special teams, which muffed 2 punts and turned the ball over twice last week. They've got to be on point because Jalen Daniels, Devin Neal, they're capable of compounding your mistakes. And so the Texas defense, which has done a good job of getting pressure, of creating turnovers, they're +4 in turnover margin, needs to be really sharp, obviously, and stuff Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal early. Don't let them hang around. Don't give them belief like they did 2 years ago when Kansas came in and beat them 57-56 in an overtime thriller.
Let's talk about X factors in this game. Who could be the difference? Chip, who is the player you are watching?
Well, I just brought up the fact that Bijan Robinson ran for 243 yards against Kansas last year, almost a half dozen touchdowns for him on the ground. Jonathan Brooks is the guy who needs to continue to show that he can be the ground and pound guy for the Longhorns. He's run for 100 yards each of the last 2 games, had a 40-yard touchdown run against Baylor last week where he got the corner and outran everybody. He's tough. He's broken 24 tackles so far this season. He's averaging 6 forced missed tackles per game, and he can catch the football. Had a really nice one-handed catch for 18 yards against Baylor last week. So Jonathan Brooks is the guy because you want to maintain possession of the football and keep Kansas's offense off the field. Jonathan Brooks can help Texas do that.
And Chip, I'm going to go with the same exact thing here. I'm going with the running back, Devin Neal. KU's going to try and control the clock here. They don't want Quinn Ewers putting up 50-plus points on this defense. I look at what KU's going to try and do. They need guys that are going to erase bad plays. There are going to be times where Texas defensive line is going to stop whatever offensive lineman is trying to block them and get in the backfield. They need a guy like Devin Neal who can make guys miss, get a first down, keep the chains moving, and keep that clock moving. I think so much of what KU wants to be as a program right now, when you look at being the inferior talented team, is control the clock. And I think Devin Neal is going to be a huge part in that. He's taken the step from last season looking to this season, and he looks more athletic, he looks more explosive. He really does look like someone that could go on to play in the NFL, and I think KU's really going to need to lean on him to get the run game going, and then eventually open up the passing game, allow Jalen Daniels to make some deep shots and potentially get some more explosive plays. But KU's offense puts up a lot of points, but it's not necessarily the most high-powered, going fast. They want to run their plays. They're going to be slow, try and control the clock, and Devin Neal's the guy that's going to allow them to do that.
It all starts with the run game, and game coverage all starts right here. Thanks, Michael and Chip, for joining us. And for more, make sure you check out Horns247 and Fog.net. Your Longhorns and Jayhawks football and recruiting news all year long.